the level of stoop to stand up in this. These buses have like the lowest roof or the highest floor. Who knows? After the weekend I've had, it's kind of weird being outside, to be honest. Up at 2 this morning and finished off the process that I was working on yesterday. Got to the point where I was starting to create the landing page and all of that. But Gubbins just like building the scaffolding. I'd kind of lost momentum by that point though, so I just kind of read my book before having my nap at 6. I need to do a little bit of restructuring, a little bit of rewiring, and then I need to do my, actually hook up the verification link, and I need to create sign-in, sign-out page, all that my Gubbins. Back to work. It's a stormy couple of days. The like remnants of an ex-hurricane is hitting Ireland, and we're pretty close to that, so we've got some quite bad winds. So much so that I think the road that I normally drive on was like blocked or something, because I was driving down and Google Maps was like, oh, turn right, and it will take you 15 minutes longer than turning left. And I always go right, because that's the fastest way. So I'm like, shit, something's gone down. So I went left and went like the friggin' longest way in I've ever gone. It was insane, but still got here on time, so winner. I gotta catch up on what's going on today, but I believe we have finished a story while I was away on Friday, which is good. But I don't know. I almost don't believe that, but apparently we have, so. You know what isn't fun, ladies and gentlemen? Entity framework. God damn. I literally spent all day today trying to get the entity framework, identity server, entity framework stuff to regenerate the database, because the like schemas have changed. It just does not want to play. Like, it just does not want to play ball, and it's such a pain in the arse. And I'm like, God, I'm bloody glad I used Mongo in my own project. Entity framework, man. And I'm like trying to regenerate the modifications for the database, and it's just not. Does not want to play. So that's been great. It's been a great day. Literally, I spent like 3 hours with Dibsy in the afternoon. 3 hours? Something like that. 2 hours. Being like, why won't this friggin' work? God damn. Otherwise though, I'm heading to bed. Failed to nap this evening. So feeling pretty tired. I've also felt a little bit like off today. Like maybe a little bit ill. I feel like an illness is incoming. Very productive morning today, although I was quite tired. I woke up at 12, which I go to bed at about, well, I think we went to bed about 10:30 last night. I feel like I've got a cold coming on, and I don't know how to deal with that with my new sleeping cycles, because normally if you have a cold, you sleep it off. But that's a bit of a no-go for me now. Wait, so I had a bit of a cold, headed to bed early, woke up at 12, and I'm like, I am so tired. I cannot possibly wake up. And I'm like in the living room, psyching myself up. I'm like, come on, Jimmy, you've got to do this. You've got to get up. You've got to do some work. Like, it's going to be hard. You just got to fight through it for a couple of weeks. Fight through it. It's because I slept back at the weekend, as we all know. At the time, it was 12 o'clock. I'm like, holy shit, I'm going back to bed. So I went back to bed. That was great. And then I basically spent the day ripping the front end off of what I've currently done and putting it somewhere else. What I basically realised was I've created a bit of a security loop where it would be potentially possible to sniff data on the wires as it's being transferred around on the back end. So what I've done is I've basically gone for like single responsibility, and I've pulled it all into the identity server project instead of in separate projects. I essentially had like a presentation layer that was then talking to my back-end service, which I was going to protect with a firewall. I'm like, this is so silly. I may as well put it on the same endpoint that the login endpoint is, which is secure, and then I don't have to mess around passing data across this potentially unprotected wire. It works out much better, so I'm glad about that. I was really productive, blitzed through loads of that shit, and then it was time to go to work, basically. I've still got a little bit more to do. Because of the way that I'm doing it now, I'm kind of changing the precedence of the stuff. So the message bus is getting used a little bit less, because there aren't two things talking to each other anymore. There's one thing talking to itself and the thingy service. So I've kind of like moved the complexity from here to after you've signed in. That's when half the complexity will start to kick in again, as I need to glean more information from you before you're allowed to do anything else. So that's all good. What else? What else, Trevor? We have another day of fighting SQL and Entity Framework and ASP.NET identity databases. It's going to be a party in the park. I'm going to mention once why don't we not use SQL for this? Why are we using SQL when we could just use something like Mongo? But I don't think that'll go down well. I need it to be SQL related. Go document DB, bruh. Anyway, I think I've got a lot of meetings. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are meeting days. So I think I've got a couple of them coming up because the other team are ending their sprint. So we'll have like some ceremonies to go through. Managed to beat our way through the tirade of trying to get something security related to work and dealing with generic error messages that don't really help you out much. Which was basically my day today. some meetings and whatnot, but we finally got to the point where we could like push it all through and do some pull requesting. I was going to look at doing some pull requests, doing the pull requests at home, so we could just go in tomorrow and deploy it. This pull request is like a blocking. It's going to block us. We can't start the next thing until this is in. And I'm like, right, okay, I could just whip up the code review stuff. But the like biggest code review change, I need to be on the VPN for. I haven't got access to the VPN on my laptop, so I can't test it. So I'm like, well, there's no point doing the rest of it because I may as well give like my other teammates something to do while I'm doing the other thing that requires to be on the network. I need to raise an issue for getting access to the VPN. I used to have it. I think I lost it in the upgrade to Windows 10. So instead, I was while we were watching TV with Laura, watching Bake Off. Look a bit of Bake Off. I was working on moving. Getting rid of the stuff from my my public web endpoint, putting it all onto the, basically gutting that because it's now on the security endpoint instead. But I was trying to figure out a way of injecting in configuration options into the view because now I'm linking like to a separate web page, which will be on like a separate domain. It's not in the same app. So I can't just do like or navigate to this controller because that controller doesn't exist. So I was trying to figure out a way of doing that, and I found a way, but it just doesn't want to play ball with me. So that's like the thing I'm playing with on my laptop, and then on Atlas I'm working on actual legit stuff. So, which we will resume, ladies and gentlemen. We will resume it at 2.
Well, last night was the worst. I didn't wake up at 2, and I basically didn't sleep either. I feel like I might be a little bit ill. It's like waking up / didn't go to sleep. Every 30 minutes I'd wake up and be like, what's going on? What's going on, man? God, that was horrendous. I woke up at something like 12, 1, 3, 4:30, 5, 5:30, 6. There are times I remember looking at my phone anyway. Every single time I'm like knackered as well. Otherwise I could have just got up and done some work.
I'm not 100% sure what's wrong with me. You know when you like kind of eat and then you feel ill because you've eaten? That's where I'm at the moment. And I can feel some kind of flu coming. Maybe this sleeping pattern thing like doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule. Maybe I can just flip in between it. Like basically at will. Is whether or not it's healthier, that's the question. Is doing it this way healthier than what I was doing before? Obviously I'm getting way more time out of it, so there's a benefit anyway. What's this rocking up?
Fortunately today's going to be a like kind of pushing things out day. We'll have we're going to go through pull request, fix this one bug that we've got, and then deploy out and test, and then we can start the next story. So hopefully we can do all of that in one day, and hopefully even start the next story a little bit. At some point we need to check how we're going to like roll with things. There's a couple of things I need to chase up. One, my VPN. 2, how we're going to deal with 2 data sources. And 3, something that I'm looking into is integration tests in the domain. So spinning up replica databases in memory for use at integration test level because of questions about whether or not the tests that we have around our queries are good enough. And they're not really good enough, and they're a bit of a pain. Like we've had to make I'm pushing to make changes into the domain to make testing it easier at a unit test level, but there's a very solid argument to say that the tests aren't really doing a lot. Like, so we're kind of making a decision to make the code worse in order to write tests that aren't even very good. But they're better than not having tests. So we're going to look at trying to write integration tests and wrapping that around it. But we need a good infrastructure to do that. We had a day of meetings and frustrating infrastructure issues. So I'm finding it difficult to drum up the willpower to get into some more work, but I need to shift the way my domain model works because I've changed the way the logic works now. It's great. So that's what I'm currently doing. So I've done that. I need to do this bit. I'm having a great time. It's back, so I'm stepping away for now, but I'm like currently trying to like collapse. I had these two things that were two separate steps. I'm trying to collapse it into one step. So I'm like building up one slightly bigger step and collapsing those two, trying to bring the tests over. And sometimes you're like, is it easier just to throw a grenade in and just just blat it all and then start again from scratch? Or is it easier to kind of half manipulate what you've already got? I feel like it's easier to just start again every time. But to be fair, I've literally like copied and pasted the chunk out of the first one that I care about, the bit that like validates it, and then the chunk out of the second bit, job done. Because there was this thing going on in an asynchronous method, but I don't want to leave anything, any like unencrypted stuff, unencrypted passwords. Well, specifically, I don't want to pass passwords via a message bus, so I can encrypt message buses, but that's tempting fate. You alright? Come on then, boys. No slacking tonight. 3, 2, 1, bam! 2 o'clock, boys. It keeps me honest when I show you things, like I show you the clock at 2 o'clock in the morning, because otherwise I could just say that, yeah, I got up or whatever, got up at this time. But if I have to show you, then it keeps me honest, it drags me out of bed. I had a productive evening. I've like finished like an entire like chunk, but I've hit a semi-issue where I need to go back and like make some minor changes, but I mean, to be honest with you, I think I made the minor changes. Actually, thinking about it, I think I did them at like 5:15 this morning. In order to keep my sagas up and running, I lost the correlation, a little bit about the correlation ID, because basically the correlation ID is put on the message bus by the first thing, and then it kind of flows through. But the problem is that like there's a step where it's not coming off of the message bus anymore, it's coming off of the user who's just clicked on an email, and then I don't know what the correlation ID is, and it seems weird pumping the correlation ID into that email. That seems bizarre. Instead I've just shifted what ID I'm using as the correlation ID. In NService Bus you can have like mappings, so you can map the like user ID, for example, to be the correlation ID, but that's not the case in mass transit, unfortunately. So yeah, you have to have like correlated by and then type, and then you define it there. So it's got to have like it's got to be called a certain method, whereas in Service Bus you can have anything as a correlation ID, even different things on the different thing, as long as it's the same value. Does that make sense? Meetings and testing. In theory, the dev environment will be working now. I said that yesterday. I feel like out of a 2-week sprint, we plan enough to keep us busy for that 2 weeks, and then we just get kneecapped because every time we finish a chunk of work, it takes us 3 days to get it out. And that's the problem, we're not accounting for that time, so it feels like we're just slipping behind all the time. Well, at the very end of the day, we got a working environment. Kind of. Kind of. It's still not quite plain, but in theory it should. For some reason we've lost Windows authentication on one of the administration apps, and that's stopping me still do testing. It's been 3 days. So frustrating. Fortunately today wasn't all twiddling thumbs trying to get that sorted. We had planning, refinement and stuff. We're trying to refine all the work that we need to do to get the work into a demoable state. Some people in the business want to do a demo of the platform before Christmas. We're trying to negotiate with them what a golden thread is and how possible, what their requirements are. It's insane. So we're just trying to figure it out in like the most pragmatic and agile way possible. Give them something to demo. Whether it's what they want or not is a different question. But give them something that we can then iterate over. So that's good fun. Otherwise we've been looking into ways of doing the next story. We can't start the next story, but we're looking into ways of doing it. It's a bit of a pain in the arse, truth be told, but there's not much we can do about it. I was trying to bring it home and do testing today. I've got a VPN installed, but it's not configured, so I don't know how to connect to it. Whee! Also, I still need to do some deployments to figure out why the admin app's gone down, but we like took down the dev environment and rebuilt it back up again. Oh God. It always happens to us. Hot damn. Anyway, I'm heading to bed. It's 11 o'clock. I've got a bit of a headache coming on. I'm going to get up at 2. and do some programming. I actually don't know what I need to do. Oh no, I'm doing the landing page for the email verification stuff, and all of that gubbins. So then I'll be plumbing in, as soon as that's gone in, that like plumps in all of the shizness for the next page, and then I'll be like, okay, cool, well there we go, I've remembered.
I think the problem that I have is, I'm a very deep sleeper, so I need an alarm that's enough to wake me up. I don't remember my alarm going off last night, like at all. I slept straight through. And the problem is that I'm already turning my alarm, so I've only got the light, and then my phone is going off instead of my actual alarm, because I don't want to wake Laura up. But the problem is, if it goes off and I turn it off and it's not woken me up enough, then I'm just going to go straight back to sleep and not remember it. So that's twice this week now I've missed a morning session. The bus has just turned up. Also, I left, because of that, I woke up when Laura woke up, which was late, and I left nearly 7 minutes after I normally leave, and I got here 5 minutes before I normally do. Because it's Friday and no fuck off seems to work on a Friday. Back on this bus again, god damn it.
I also tried Laura's Fitbit to see, because that's got like a silent alarm on it where it vibrates, but it's so weak, it wouldn't wake anyone up. I looked online and like, apparently that Fitbit in particular isn't as powerful as the others, because it's like the small one that's not really designed for, like, it's not got enough battery power and all that kind of stuff to drive a big motor. But I don't need a big, like, I'm barely justifying buying the small Fitbit because it's a lot of money for what I need. I definitely don't need an even more expensive one that's more designed for people who do actual fitness, which I don't do. So, god damn, I'm going to be trying my bloody best today to get this thing through test. Like, the thing is, I know it works, I just need it to be stable in the environment. The environment's just not stable. So I'm going to try and get it stable, but get proof that it actually works stably in a stable environment, and then we can move on, for Christ's sake. Basically haven't done any work this week. But literally that's what it comes down. I basically have done zero work this week, while this environment has just been throwing us a load of problems. Came home late because I was having a bit of a chinwag after work, and came home, thought I'd play a bit of Xbox, waiting for Laura to come home so we can start cooking dinner. It's nearly 7 o'clock and she's not back yet. I was on a bike. All sorted. We started to dive onto the next work and we just like, just see the burn downs like this. It's like, bang! We just fucking hit it hard today. We had a really good day. I also was hunting around for a coat. Couldn't find a good coat that I liked. As I never can. But I got talking to lots of cool shop attendants who were all willing to help. Also, I'm playing Doom, and I just beat the Cyber Demon, Clonk. And I'm very disappointed about that battle. Like, nothing holds a flame up to the way that in the first Doom, you get to the to Clonk level, and you're like, oh shit, it's this level. And it used to take ages. Well, maybe it's because I was watching Dad do it. It used to take Dad ages. But it was really easy.
It's bedtime, ladies and gentlemen. We are rolling into the weekend. I'm going to end the video here. Had a pretty on and off week, both at work and here. But we are hopefully going to release the floodgates and get some proper amount of work done. We also have a fun Saturday planned. Not sure about Sunday, but we've got a fun Saturday planned. We're going to have a meal, go to Bath for the day. It's going to be dope. So dope. So yeah, let me know, ladies and gentlemen. Come back, find out what's going on. It's going to be a party in a park. I don't really think I've got much to say, unfortunately. Yes, thank you very much for watching this video. I'll keep you longer than I have to. I'll catch you later.